Hi there, everyone. We're going to get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Amanda McKee. I'm the Head of Knowledge Management with the NDC Partnership Support Unit. I'm joined by my colleague, Talia Kalnick-Sujin, who's the project coordinator for the Knowledge and Learning team here at the NDC Partnership. This webinar today, we're going to present you with a demo of an exciting new resource on NDC implementation, the NDC Partnership's Knowledge Portal. The webinar is going to last approximately an hour. We will give you a live demonstration of the portal, including how you can use it, how it can support you in your work, and there will be plenty of time for questions. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A function found in Zoom. It will either be found at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen. If you want to just type your questions into there, we'll make sure to get to them at the end of the demo. So before we jump in, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on who the NDC Partnership is. We are a global coalition of countries and institutions collaborating to drive transformational climate action. As of today, we draw together 94 countries from around the world, both developed and developing countries, 23 international institutions, these are intergovernmental organizations, and 12 associate members. You can see all of our partners here on the screen. The partnership really works in two main ways. Through our in-country support, the partnership engages directly with national ministries, development partners, civil society organizations to assess needs and identify opportunities for collaboration to really drive climate action. Complementary to this, we promote knowledge and learning, including lessons learned from our in-country work and insights from our broad network of institutions to really accelerate implementation, both across the membership and beyond. The NDC Partnership's member countries and institutions really bring together a wide range of knowledge and expertise, enabling unique opportunities to learn from each other. When it comes to specific learning, there is a wide selection of data sources, tools, advisory services available to support countries in implementing their NDCs. But for many countries, actually finding the most appropriate resources and using them effectively can be a big challenge, given the large body of tools that are available out there. And so the Knowledge Portal, which we're going to present to you today, was really created to help address this challenge. It's a free online platform where we make available the best knowledge resources from our members and other leading institutions. This is a curated selection of resources, and we've drawn it together to really help countries to accelerate climate action by providing them with quick and easy access to the best resources out there. The Knowledge Portal provides a very valuable service for all of our members. For our institutional members, it helps to extend their reach, getting their products into the hands of users, both across the partnership and beyond. And for countries, it helps to provide easy access to this curated offering of the best services available. So really, the Knowledge Portal is helping to reduce costs for accessing knowledge, ensuring that the best analytical tools, guidance documents, case studies, data sources, and funding opportunities are available and shared across the partnership. So today we're going to walk you through the various resources that are available on the NDC Partnership's Knowledge Portal to illustrate how they can support you in your work. And so I'm going to turn it over to Talia, who's going to lead us through today's demo. So over to you, Talia.
Great, thank you, Amanda. So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. This will be about a 30-minute presentation of the tools you can find on the Knowledge Portal. And as Amanda mentioned, we will have lots of room for questions at the end. The objective is really for you to feel like you can leave this demo able to use the Knowledge Portal in your work, as well as explain to your colleagues how to use it. Please type your questions as you have them. We will address them as we go through, as well as at the end. And finally, we will also be recording this webinar. So if you have colleagues who were not able to join, who you'd like to share it with, we will make that available to you. So just one sec. As you can see, we've now opened up the Knowledge Portal, which you can access from the NDC Partnership website up at the top scroll bar. When you click on the Knowledge Portal, it brings you to this home page. And we've really designed the portal with the input of members to be as intuitive as possible so that you can find the information you need even if you're not an expert in NDC implementation. If you scroll down, you can find the tools, which have been designed in the order of questions you might go about thinking about as you're planning and implementing your NDCs. When you have a problem that you're trying to solve or a climate goal you have in mind, but you need inspiration for how to achieve it, that's where the good practice database comes in, which is a set of case studies of good practice examples of how countries or others have overcome challenges in NDC implementation. Once you have inspiration and you know what you want to do, sometimes you need guidance or support. You need tools to walk you through different processes. The Climate Toolbox will direct you to analytical tools, to guidance, frameworks, and technical support to help you with that. And once you have a plan and a way about going about it, sometimes what you still need is funding. The Climate Finance Explorer not only helps you to find the funds that are most relevant to your needs, but also includes steps to access them. And finally, at the bottom, there's the need the facts section, when what you're really looking for is data, either about NDCs or about emissions. So Amanda and I are going to go through each of these modules in more depth, but before, I just wanted to stress one thing, which is that the Knowledge Portal is really an effort of partnership of the organizations and countries, of people on this call, as well as others. The tools were all developed collaboratively with partners in the NDC partnership, and it includes over 700 resources relevant to NDC implementation from over 100 institutions. We hope that it will be useful to your work and that you let us know if there are tools that are missing that you think should be included. So first, I'm going to go through the good practice database. So if you are looking for inspiration, you click on the good practice database. The good practice database is an exciting collaborative effort between the NDC Partnership, LEDGE-GP, the Partnership on Transparency in the Paris Agreement, the ICI NDC Cluster, and UNDP. We've brought together two existing databases, the Global Good Practice Analysis and the Leadership Explorer, plus our own case studies. We're also working to include outside case studies. This database can be useful if you're looking for overall inspiration, if you're trying to do something in a particular sector or around a particular step of NDC planning and implementation, or if you want to find other countries that are doing similar work to you with whom you might want to collaborate. To show you how to use this database, I'll go through an example. So as you can see from the home page, if you already know what you're looking for, you can type in a keyword at the bottom. Or if you're not sure and you want to use the filters, you can click on Explore Good Practices. This will take you to a series of filters on the left. So let's say, for example, that you're working with a country that's updating its NDC. And as part of the updating process, the government wants to begin a process of broad stakeholder engagement across all aspects of the NDC. You're not sure where to start. So first, I'm going to click on Action Area, which refers to adaptation, mitigation, or cross-cutting. This is all aspects of the NDC, so I'll click on cross-cutting. Next, I'll click on Planning and Implementation Activities, which is the step of planning and implementation that I'm on. And I'll scroll down and I'll click on Governance and Stakeholder Engagement. Sectors and themes will let me choose things like the agriculture sector, themes like gender, but I'm interested in the whole NDC, so I'm going to leave that blank for now. Language will let me sort between English, French, and Spanish, but I'll leave that blank for now as well. And you'll see that it's sorted in live time to 16 results. However, I'm particularly interested in the Latin America and Caribbean region, so I'm going to click on that. And now it's brought me down to 4 results. I'm going to click, for example, on Dialogamos NDC, a participatory process for NDC implementation in Peru. If I click on this, it will bring me to the detail page for the case study, which will include the case summary on the left and several tags on the right. In addition to some of the tags that I've sorted by, it has other relevant information like barriers overcome, which can help me to identify which case studies might be most relevant. All of the lessons are bullet pointed on the front page, so that might be enough. Or if I want to read the whole case study, I can click on the link to download it. When case studies are available in multiple languages, I can click on multiple links. All right, so now I'm going to turn it back over to Amanda to talk about the Climate Toolbox.
Thank you, Talia. So once you have some inspiration and you know what it is that you do, the next tool that you can explore is the Climate Toolbox. This is where you can find actual tangible tools to help guide you through your NDC planning and implementation process. This includes things like guidance frameworks, analytical tools, templates. It also includes types of technical support, so particular help desks or other platforms which are suites of tools really specializing on a particular topic. 2 things that aren't included in here: it does not include data sources. You will find those in the data tools section of the knowledge portal that we'll present to you at the end. It also doesn't include things like policy briefs or long reports. And the reason for that is we've really curated the toolbox to be practical tools that you can dive right into and use. And so it doesn't require you to spend a lot of time reading through them. And it will offer you with kind of concrete steps to really start with implementation right away. The content from the toolbox comes from our members as well as other leading institutions. And so we collect these resources through desk research, but also through communications from our partners. And so for those of you on the line, if you do have resources that you think would be useful to reflect here in the toolbox, which aren't currently here, please do reach out to us and we can look and see if and how we can reflect them. So to access the tool, it's the same as what you just saw with the good practice database. You can either search directly if you know exactly what it is that you're looking for, or you can click to explore tools, which will bring you to the filters to allow you to browse through the collection that we have. So the easiest way for me to walk you through these filters is to give you a little bit of an example as a demo. So let's say that I'm tasked with recommending climate-friendly transportation infrastructure with the greenest economic benefit. So the filters here look slightly different from the good practice database, but a lot of the same categories exist. So there are 3 buckets of filters. The first one is around activities. And this starts from the very beginning of understanding the basics of NDC through the various steps that you might want to take, all the way down to financing and evaluating, monitoring, and reporting on impacts. Many of these categories include subcategories. And so if I think of my particular example, I'm interested in evaluating the economic benefits. So if I click on evaluate potential development in impacts and benefits, I'm interested in assessing the economic impact, so I can select this. As you select filters, the results will automatically update at the bottom of the page. So we started with about 500 results and we're down to 124. I'm going to continue to apply some filters here to show you how this works. The second bucket of filters is around the focus. So what is that you're trying to do? Is there a particular region that you're focusing on, a particular sector, theme, or scale? So for this example, I'm interested in transport, so I can scroll down and I can select transport from our sectors list. I'm also interested in national policies. I'm not so interested in looking at resources relevant to the project level, so I can filter those out by selecting scale as national. The third bucket of filter is around the types of resources that you might be looking for. So that's where we can select if we're looking for guidance or templates or different platforms. In this case, I'm really interested in analytical tools. I want something quantitative, something technical that I can apply. You can also filter by the expertise level. And so this is important, as not everyone that's coming into this toolbox will necessarily be a specialist on these topics. And so this filter allows you to flag if you're a generalist and you want resources that don't really require a great deal of specialization. So I'm going to filter by the generalist tab here. And then lastly, we have a language filter as well, as a number of the resources offered in the Climate Toolbox are available in English, but also in French, Spanish, and some other languages. So if I scroll down to my table of results, you'll see all of the filters applied at the top, and all of my results here listed in alphabetical order. So we have 6 results to start. If you want, you can actually filter or sort the columns as well. So if I want to sort them to fall into reverse alphabetical order, I can do that. I can go back to alphabetical order here. You can also continue to apply more resources. So let's say that in addition to analytical tools, I'm also interested in technical support. So if I select those 2 filters, or those 2 options within this one filter, I'm actually going to broaden my results slightly. And so now I have 8 results. You can see I have a number of tools, but I also have a couple of technical support options available in the list there. So similar to the good practice database, if you click on any of these options, you'll be taken to a detailed page where you can learn a little bit more about the tool. So you'll find a description of it, information on the source, where it came from, all of the tags that have been applied, and importantly, a link to actually access it. And to help you, or to help flag resources that you might also be interested in, you can find similar resources. So these are resources in the toolbox that have similar tags to the ones that I just applied. And so you can browse through these and potentially get some additional ideas. There's also a keyword search in the toolbox. So if you want to bypass the filters and just type in any of that information, that will enable you to search for results as well. So that's the Climate Toolbox. The next tool that we want to walk you through is the Climate Finance Explorer. So once you know roughly what it is that you want to do, you know how you want to go about doing it, but you really just need the funding or the finance to make it happen. That's where the Climate Finance Explorer comes in. One of the most commonly asked questions or expressed challenges we get is over finance. And so not just over identifying sources of finance, but also understanding how to access them. And so the Climate Finance Explorer helps with these 2 things. It draws together in a searchable database sources of international public climate finance. It presents all of the data in a standardized and user-friendly format to really help increase transparency and allow you to search and compare across different funding sources. Each entry in the tool represents a single fund or a facility of a fund that has its own unique eligibility or access requirements. And this is important because it allows us to get really into the depth of each of these entries and clearly explain the specifics on how you access that particular fund. The Climate Finance Explorer does not include domestic sources of finance. It also does not include private sources of finance. It's really limited to international public sources of finance. And the last thing that I'll mention before I show you a little bit of an example here is that the content was developed jointly with the World Resources Institute's Finance Center. And through that, we were able to talk with the various funds as well, to have them to review the entries and provide their input as well. So we hope that this will really help increase transparency and help to demystify access to climate finance. So the way that you access this tool is the same as what we saw with the other 2. You can type in a keyword if you know a particular topic or particular fund that you just want to dive right into, or you can click Explore Funding Opportunities to come to the filters. So in this tool, we have 3 buckets of funds. So I'm going to give you an example. and walk through that. So let's say that you work for a national government, let's say that you work for Chile, and you're interested in finance for an energy efficiency project. So the first bucket of questions is around where the funding is needed. So here you can enter information on who you are or who's looking for the funding. So in this case, it's a national government, so I'll select public entity at the national level. And as I select these filters, the results are going to display live on the right-hand side. So right now I've already got 81 results. I can filter further by selecting a country. I'm going to select Chile. And now we're down to 36 funds. The next bucket of filters is around the purpose of support. And so the first question really looks at what it is that you're trying to fund. So are you looking to create enabling environments, build institutional capacity, looking to scope projects, implement projects, or the last category, we have funds that look specifically at complying with reporting requirements. So things like the UNFCCC reporting requirements. In this case, I'm really interested in project and program implementation, so I will filter that. We're now down to 19 results. We can also select our climate objective if we're interested in adaptation, mitigation, or cross-cutting. And then the similar set of sectors and themes that we saw in the other tools. So in this case, I'm interested in looking specifically at funds that are available to support energy efficiency. So now I'm down to 10 results. The last bucket of filters is looking really at the specifics of the funding opportunities that are out there. So these are some of the more technical filters. So here, if you're looking for a particular financial instrument, you can filter according to that. If you are interested in understanding funds where co-financing is required or not required, you can filter by that. And then lastly, you can filter by the type of support provider. So if you're only interested in looking at multilateral support providers or bilateral support providers, you can filter your results to limit that there. So I'm going to keep those filters that I'd applied. You can see we have 10 results, which is still quite a lot to go through. So if you are still unclear which fund is most relevant to you, we've also built a compare feature. So you can select up to 3 funds. I'm going to select just 2 here. As soon as you have 2, a little pop-up will appear, which allows you to compare. And so if you click on that, it's going to bring you to a side-by-side comparison of those funds. We can expand all the categories, and it's going to show us quickly how the tags apply across the funds. And so this is a really easy way for you to see how they align, how they differ. You can also click to actually just show the differences. So if I only want to see those categories that are different, you can scroll through here and really quickly get a sense for what these funds are about. Once you know which fund you want to access, you can click on it and you'll come to a detailed page with much more information. So there's a description at the top about the fund, telling you a little bit more about what its aims are, any kind of important information that you should have up front. All of the different tags that have been applied are shown here on the right. And then you can find much more detailed information here on the left-hand side about some of the specifics around this fund. So there's a section, for instance, on the decision-making structure. There's a section on monitoring and reporting. Lastly, and probably most importantly, there's a section on the actual steps to access that fund. And so first you'll find a short description on what access looks like. And then for some of the bigger international funds, you'll find a detailed breakdown. And so here we've tried to visualize the various steps to help to simplify it almost into a decision tree type of format. So if you click on any of these steps, you'll get a pop-up which provides you with much more information. So in accessing the Green Climate Fund, the first step is really on deciding the method of access. And so by clicking on the various tabs within this, you'll find more information. You'll find information on the different actors that are relevant to that step. And on the right-hand side, you'll actually find direct links to some of the resources on the Green Climate Fund's website that are important to accessing it. So whether that's different tools, different standards, checklists, or even application forms that you should be aware of. The last thing that I'll point out here is that you can also download that steps to access. So that will allow you to download it into a PDF format that you could then print off if that's more useful for you, or that you could email to someone if you're interested in sharing that information with them. So that's the Climate Finance Explorer. I'm going to next turn it back to Talia, who is going to walk us through the last set of tools, our data modules on the Knowledge Portal.
Thank you. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the Knowledge Portal, you'll find 4 boxes, which are our data modules. The first 3, the nationally determined contributions, NDC SDG linkages, and historical emissions, were developed in partnership with the World Resource Institute's Climate Watch platform. So if you're familiar with Climate Watch, you'll also be familiar with these tools. First, I'm going to show you the NDC content module. So if I click on that, it will bring me to this, this map of the world. And the really cool thing about the NDC content tool is that it's mapped every single country's INDC and NDC, and as the second NDCs are submitted, it will map those two onto HTML format, which means that every NDC is fully searchable within that NDC and across all countries' NDCs. Let's say that I want to look at a certain country's NDC. Let's say, for example, I'm interested in Ghana's NDC. I could either click on the map on that country, or I could type it into the top. So I'm going to type in Ghana, and I can click on Ghana NDC overview. So in addition to putting each NDC into HTML format, this tool breaks down kind of the key components of the NDC. So there's a summary page, a mitigation summary page, an adaptation summary page, and sectoral information. Similar to the Climate Finance Explorer, you can click on each of them to look at the details for each part of the NDC. Also similar, you can compare across multiple NDCs. So let's say that I want to compare Ghana's NDC to, let's say, Algeria's NDC. I can click those two, and I can click to add a third. So let's say that I want to also compare it to Rwanda's NDC. The default, as with the Climate Finance Explorer, is that all the information is collapsed. But I can click on any of the arrows in order to compare them side by side, which can be really useful as I'm looking at working with several countries. If I go back to a single NDC, so to Ghana's NDC, I can go straight to the NDC document. As you can see, I can choose either to look at the INDC or the NDC. And then I can easily search within it. So let's say, for example, that I want to find every place in Ghana's NDC that mentions forests. So I'm going to click forest into the search bar. And if I scroll down, everywhere that mentions forest will be highlighted. What's even cooler than that is if I go to the home page and I want to search forests across all countries' NDCs. I can do that. And on the left side of the screen, sorry, our internet's a little bit slow this morning. On the left side of the screen, you'll see highlighted in every country's NDC all the mentions of forests. And on the right, you'll see a highlighted map of which countries' INDCs or NDCs mention forests. So that's pretty useful, but sometimes doing a keyword search isn't quite enough, because what if I'm interested in deforestation, forests, anything related to good forest management? just typing in all of those search terms could take a really long time. So that's where the NDC SDG Linkages module comes in. So I could go back to the home page and click on that box, or I could go to the scroll down menu and click on NDC SDG Linkages. This tool maps every single country's full NDC text against all of the Sustainable Development targets, so the targets within each of the Sustainable Development Goals. It's based on research done by the World Resources Institute, but this tool really makes it visually friendly and easy to navigate. So let's say now that I want to see every NDC that in some way links to SDG 5 on gender equality. I can click on that SDG, and as you can see, it has highlighted every country whose NDC is linked to at least one target in SDG 5. The darker the shading on the country, the more targets that are linked. Like you can see that Mexico has 2 targets linked versus Brazil has 1, so Brazil's a little bit lighter. And you can also click on any of those. So let's say that I want to click on Brazil. If I scroll down, I will see highlighted in yellow exactly why that linkage is made. What phrase in the NDC led the team doing the research to make the link. So this is really unique and special. There are a lot of tools out there that will map NDCs to SDGs, but this tool is really transparent in how it shows where that linkage is made so that you can look at it and you can decide whether you agree or disagree. The other thing you can see is a bit more about the methodology. And I'll show it to you for this tool, but it's true on all the data modules. If you click on the little information button, it will tell you where the research comes from, and you can go and read the paper where the research was done. The final tool that I want to show you is the greenhouse gas emissions. So this is a really cool visualization tool. There are a lot of different ways you can play around with it and make cool graphs. When you first go to the tool, the default will be mapping the highest emitting countries against each other. There are a few different filters I want to show you of ways you can change the graph. The first is on the left, is the data source. So the default is Kate, which is a WRI data source, but you could also choose to use the Potsdam Institute data or the UNFCCC self-reported country data. I'm going to leave it at Kate for now. Next, as you can see, it's showing world emissions. So it's showing the highest 9 emitters mapped against each other, plus the gray at the top is all other countries. Let's say instead of looking at just the top emitters, I want to look at the East Asia and Pacific region. So now, as you can see, it's mapped the countries in the East Asia and Pacific region that are the highest emitters against each other. So of course, this big line is from China. The next filter is which types of emissions are included. So the default is to include the total, including land use of emissions, but I could instead decide to filter by sector, let's say the energy sector, and it will slightly change the emissions graph. I could also decide, rather than filtering by all greenhouse gas emissions, to filter by a specific gas. And finally, the default is to look at the total emissions, but I could instead, for example, look at the emissions per capita in each of these countries, which, as you can see, really dramatically changes this graph. Finally, if I go back to the regions and totals, I can change the type of graph it is. So right now, the default is to be the overall emissions, but I could instead look at cumulative emissions, which can give me a really good sense of how overall emissions have changed over time. Also, if you go down to the bottom, you'll see the data table of all for the entire graph. And as you change the graph, the data will be reflected down at the bottom. Finally, if you want, you can click on the download button to download the raw data. And if you do that, you can decide to make whatever other graphs you would like. It's all completely free and open. The last data module, which I'll just mention very briefly, is the other data tools. And in the other data tools, which is you can click on the Want More section, we've brought together other really great data sources from partners in the NDC partnership around different topics. So NDC and climate sources, climate finance sources, climate policy, and other data sources. So we really encourage you also to check those out. So that's it for the demo. Now we really want to hear from you. So if you have questions, please begin to type them into the Q&A function.
So just looking at some of the questions that are coming in, the first one is a question on access and whether the features are limited to partners or to all countries. Everything on the Knowledge Portal is really open to all countries, all users. So it's something that we've targeted towards the NDC partnership members, but it really is a free resource accessible to anyone. In terms of who primary audiences are, we're really aiming to reach government, country officials, but also the different institutions that work with governments to help them plan and implement their NDCs, as well as different members of the private sector, so students, researchers, different NGOs. These are all some of our target users, and the Knowledge Portal is accessible to all of them.
Okay, I see another question. How do you decide what goes in the Knowledge Portal, and what are your criteria?
So there's different criteria for all of the different tools within the Knowledge Portal. The first thing that I'll mention is that we really try to rely on the resources that our partners are producing. And so our partners represent some of the leading institutions out there producing knowledge. And so our starting point is to reflect the resources that they produce. If you go to any of the tools and the landing page at the beginning of the tool, you'll actually see an About section that you can click on. It says here, click here, and that will bring you to a deeper description of the tool, tell you a little bit of the background that we presented you with today, but also provide you with a more detailed kind of inclusion and exclusion criteria. And so then you can see for the Climate Finance Explorer, for instance, exactly which types of funds are included, which are excluded, and how we determine that. We have similar criteria for the Toolbox and for the Good Practice database. If you do have resources that are not reflected here that you think would be really interesting to reflect here, I would encourage you to send them to us. You can reach me and Talia at supportunit@ndcpartnership.org. We can then review those resources, compare them against our inclusion and exclusion criteria, and see how best we can reflect them in the Knowledge Portal. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We hope that you found this a useful demo, and we hope that the Knowledge Portal will be useful in your work. If you do have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will be circulating the recording for this webinar, and be sure to visit the Knowledge Portal. Thank you so much.